A routine traffic stop turns explosive when a white officer aggressively detains an elderly black woman on a deserted Georgia road, only to choke on his words when she hands him her ID. But this isn't just any driver. She's a sitting U.S. Supreme Court justice, and with icy calm she dismantles his prejudice without raising her voice. What happens next will leave you speechless. This story will make you rethink power, bias, and justice. Subscribe now for gripping real-life dramas that hit harder than fiction. Like, share, and comment below. What would you do if you were in her shoes? Let's discuss the most jaw-dropping moment. Hashtag power and prejudice. Hashtag unexpected justice. The Georgia backroads were quiet this time of evening. Just the hum of cicadas and the occasional rustle of pine branches in the warm breeze. The sun had dipped below the horizon, leaving the sky streaked with fading shades of lavender and gold. The two-lane road, cracked in places and patched with asphalt, wound through stretches of farmland and thickets of trees, barely wide enough for two cars to pass. Gloria Hemmings guided her old satin-finished sedan along the familiar route, her hand steady on the wheel. At 73, she didn't like driving at night as much as she used to. Her eyes weren't as sharp, and her reflexes had slowed, though she'd never admit it aloud. But this road, the one between Gray and Macon, was one she knew by heart. She'd taken it home from her sister-in-law's house for years. The scent of peach cobbler, still warm inside the Tupperware on the passenger seat, filled the car. Bernice had insisted she take it. "You're getting too skinny," she fussed, pressing the container into Gloria's hands. Gloria had smiled politely, though her appetite hadn't been the same since her husband passed. These days, food was just sustenance, not comfort. She adjusted the vents, the AC wheezing weakly. Rolling the window down halfway, she let the evening air rush in, carrying the earthy smell of cut grass and distant rain. Her purse sat on the floorboard, her Supreme Court badge tucked inside her wallet. She rarely thought about it unless she needed it. Power was a quiet thing worn lightly. Then headlights flashed in her rearview mirror, bright too close. A sheriff's SUV, unmarked but unmistakable. No siren, just trailing her. Her fingers tightened slightly on the wheel. Had she been speeding? She eased her foot off the gas, letting the car slow. 5 seconds later, the blue lights flicked on. Gloria didn't hesitate. She signaled, pulled onto the gravel shoulder, and shifted into park. The tires crunched over dry weeds. Her heartbeat was steady, but her chest felt tight. She reached for her purse, placed it on her lap, then returned both hands to the wheel. Breathe. She taught her grandson the same routine years ago. Don't argue. Don't reach fast. Keep your hands where they can see them. Be polite, even if you're the one who should be afraid. The officer didn't approach right away. He sat in his vehicle for nearly a full minute, the red and blue lights painting the trees in pulsing color. Through the rearview, she watched his silhouette, broad-shouldered, the rigid posture of a man used to being obeyed. Finally, his door opened. Gloria exhaled slowly and rolled her window halfway down. The night air carried the faint tang of gasoline and dust. He walked up slowly, one hand resting near his belt. "License and registration," he said, before he'd even reached her window. No greeting. No explanation. Gloria's voice was calm, measured. "May I ask why I was pulled over, officer?" He leaned in slightly, his shadow falling across her face. "You swerved back there. You been drinking tonight, ma'am?" Her fingers flexed against the wheel. "Here we go." The officer's breath carried the faint metallic bite of chewing tobacco as he leaned closer, his forearm resting against the roof of her car. His nameplate read Kessler, the letters slightly tarnished. His eyes, pale blue and unblinking, scanned her face like he was already drafting the report in his head. "No, sir," Gloria said, her voice even. "I haven't had a drink in over 20 years." Kessler's eyebrow twitched upward. "You got any weapons?" "Controlled substances in the vehicle." "No." He didn't move. Didn't ask for her documents again. Just stared, his jaw working slightly like he was testing the weight of her lie. The silence stretched, thick and deliberate. A moth fluttered against the patrol car's headlights, casting frantic shadows across the gravel. "Step out of the car," he said finally, flat as a judge's gavel. Gloria didn't flinch. "Am I being detained?" His nostrils flared. "Don't play games with me." Louder now, a bark. Out of the car. She took a slow breath, the kind she'd mastered during 30 years on the bench. Inhale for 4 counts, hold for 7, exhale for 8. "Officer, I have identification. I'd like to show it to you." Kessler scoffed. "Later. Right now," said "Step out." Her hand inched toward her purse. "Ma'am, don't reach." His palm slapped his holster. Gloria froze. "I'm not reaching for anything. My ID is in my purse. May I retrieve it?" A pause. His chest rose and fell under the starched uniform. "Keep your hands on the wheel," he snapped. "You fit a description." She didn't ask what description. She'd heard that line before, in '68 outside Montgomery, in '92 during a traffic stop in D.C., and now here, on a road she'd driven since before this man was born. The wind lifted a strand of silver hair across her cheek. She didn't brush it away. Kessler circled the car, boots crunching gravel. He walked like a man hoping for an excuse, shoulders squared, fingers flexing near his belt. At the passenger window, he stooped, peering inside. Her quilted handbag, her cane. 2 crossword books, her late husband's old cardigan. "Where are you coming from tonight?" He called over the roof. "My sister-in-law's house, in Gray. Late for a Sunday visit." She had dinner waiting, Gloria said. We hadn't seen each other in a while. Kessler folded his arms. "Sure you weren't somewhere else before that?" She didn't answer. Arguing was a trap. He rapped the trunk with his knuckles. "Pop it." Gloria blinked. "Excuse me?" "You heard me. Pop. The trunk." Her voice stayed low, but each word carried. "Officer, is there probable cause for a search?" Something flickered in his face, surprise then irritation. Probable landed like a stone in still water. His posture shifted, just enough to telegraph that she'd crossed a line. "Open the glove compartment," he ordered instead. Gloria didn't move. "Do you have a warrant?" Kessler's jaw tightened. He turned on his heel, marched back to his cruiser, and yanked open the door. Through the rear view, she watched him grab his radio. Static crackled. "Unit 14, requesting backup," he muttered, shooting her a glare. "Female driver, possible evasion, refusing compliance." Gloria's stomach dropped. Refusing compliance. A lie wrapped in bureaucratic polish. She flexed her fingers against the wheel. The dashboard clock read 9:16 p.m. No other cars had passed. When Kessler returned, he held a flashlight. Without warning, he shone it full in her face. She winced, turning her head. "Don't move," he said. "Just checking your eyes." "I told you I haven't been drinking." He clicked the light off. "You always this difficult." "I'm following the law." Kessler leaned in close enough that she caught the stale coffee on his breath. "Tell you what, you give me permission to search, this whole thing goes quick." Gloria met his gaze. "I don't consent to a search without cause." For a long moment he just stared. Then he laughed, a dry, humorless sound. Well, somebody's been watching those legal shows." She didn't blink. "You hiding something in there, ma'am?" "No." "Then why the attitude?" His voice dripped mock concern. "Most folks just cooperate. Makes things easier." Gloria tilted her head. "Easier for who?" Kessler's smile vanished. He straightened, fingers drumming the doorframe. The radio on his shoulder crackled again. He ignored it. Then click, he tried the door handle. Locked. Gloria hadn't moved. Kessler's face darkened. "You locking me out now?" "I didn't unlock it in the first place." A muscle jumped in his jaw. He stepped back, blinking fast, like a man recalculating. The script wasn't working. Without another word, he stormed to his cruiser and slammed the door. Gloria exhaled. The night air smelled of pine and gasoline. Somewhere in the dark, a whip-poor-will called. And then headlights. Another patrol car rolled up behind Kessler's. The second officer, younger, with close-cropped hair and a nervous energy, approached Kessler's window. Through the rearview mirror, Gloria watched their muted exchange. Kessler's sharp gestures, the younger man's hesitant nods. After a moment, the new officer hung back while Kessler returned to her car, his stride tighter now, lips pressed thin. He stopped at her window, gripping the doorframe like he needed to steady himself. "Ma'am," he began, voice strained. "I'm going to need you to." Gloria had already reached for her purse. Slowly telegraphing every movement, she'd unzipped the inner compartment and withdrew a slim leather case. She didn't hand it to him immediately, just held it between two fingers, letting the engraved gold seal catch the flicker of his patrol car's lights. "Before we continue," she said, "I believe you'll want to see this." Kessler's eyes dropped to the badge. For 3 full seconds, he didn't react. Then his breath hitched. "That's my identification," Gloria finished. She flipped the case open. Beneath the Supreme Court seal, her name was etched in clean block letters. Gloria M. Hemmings, Associate Justice. Kessler's mouth opened, closed. His Adam's apple bobbed. The younger officer, sensing the shift, took a step forward. "Everything all right, sir?" Kessler didn't answer. He was staring at the badge like it might bite him. Gloria let the silence stretch, let him sweat. Finally, he managed a strangled, You're on the Supreme Court." "I am," she said. No smirk, no triumph, just fact. The change was instant. His shoulders slumped. His fingers, which had been curled tight, loosened. The aggression drained from his posture like air from a punctured tire. "Justice Hemmings, I had no idea. I apologize." The words tumbled out, too loud, too fast. "This was just a routine stop and—" "No," Gloria interrupted softly. "It wasn't." Kessler flinched. She studied him, the sheen of sweat at his temples, the way his grip on her door had gone slack. "Tell me something, officer," she said. "If I'd been a young black man tonight, how would this have ended?" He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. "If I'd been a teenager," she pressed, "a single mother, would you have believed them when they said they hadn't been drinking?" Kessler's throat worked. "I was just doing my job." "Your job," Gloria repeated. She closed the badge case with a quiet snap. "Is to serve, not to assume." The younger officer had gone very still, eyes darting between them. Kessler's voice dropped to a whisper. "Are you going to report this?" Gloria considered him. The fear in his eyes wasn't just about professional consequences. It was the raw, ugly shame of being seen. "No," she said at last. His shoulders sagged in relief. "Not because you deserve the grace," she continued, "but because I think you already know what you did wrong. And I hope that stays with you longer than a reprimand ever could." A car passed on the road then, the first since the stop began. Its headlights washed over them, fleeting, before disappearing around the bend. Kessler swallowed hard. "It won't happen again." Gloria almost smiled. "It will. But next time, maybe you'll catch yourself." She slid her badge back into her purse. "Now, are we done here?" He nodded jerkily, stepping back from the car. "Yes, ma'am. Your Honor. I mean, good night, officer." She rolled up her window. In the rearview mirror, she watched him stand there motionless as she pulled onto the road. The younger officer said something to him, but Kessler didn't respond. Just stared at his own hands, like he was seeing them for the first time. Gloria drove 5 miles under the speed limit all the way home. The following Sunday, Gloria wore her navy dress with the lace collar, the one Marvin had always said brought out the gold in her skin. She sat in her usual pew, 3rd row from the front, as Reverend Colbert's sermon washed over the congregation. But her mind kept drifting back to the roadside, to the way Kessler's face had crumpled when he read her title. When the Reverend called her up to speak, the church fell silent. "I want to share something that happened to me last week," she began, fingers resting lightly on the pulpit. "No theatrics, just truth. I was pulled over on Highway 18 not far from here." A murmur rippled through the pews. She described the stop in spare detail, the accusation of swerving, the demand to exit her car, the illegal search. Left out the badge. Let them imagine her as any black grandmother. "What stayed with me," she said, "wasn't his apology when he realized who I was. It was the thought of how many others don't have a badge to make him pause." In the back row, 16-year-old Marley Jenkins stopped doodling in her notebook. After the service, Marley lingered by the baptismal font until the crowd thinned. When Gloria passed, the girl blurted, "That really happened to you?" Gloria studied her, the braces, the chipped nail polish, the fire in her eyes. "It did." "I'm writing about it for school," Marley said, "for our Voices of Justice project." She hesitated. "Can I use your name?" Gloria shook her head. "Tell the story, not the storyteller." Marley's essay would later win the County Youth Journalism Award. The title, "When the Mirror Talks Back." That same Sunday, Kessler sat on his couch at 3 a.m., the TV muted. His wife slept upstairs, unaware of the note he'd slipped into a mailbox 2 days prior. Unsigned, just 5 shapy sentences. "I don't know how to make it right, but I heard you. I'm thinking about what you said." He'd driven past the church twice that week, never stopping. Now he dug an old cardboard box from the garage. Beneath a stack of utility bills, he found his police academy graduation photo, 23 years old, grinning beside his training officer. Beneath it, his oath. To serve without prejudice, protect without assumption. The words curdled in his mouth. At roll call Monday, Sergeant Ruse eyed him. "You sick, Kess? You look like hell." "Fine," he muttered. But he'd started letting minor violations go with warnings. Hesitated before running plates in black neighborhoods. Once he even talked down a rookie from frisking a kid for loitering outside a bodega. "Since when do you care about probable cause?" the rookie sneered. Kessler didn't answer. By Tuesday, Rhonda, the diner waitress, told her book club. Judge said that cop searched her car like she was some kind of criminal. Mr. Ellis, the barber, warned his grandson, "Keep your hands on the wheel, boy. Even judges get messed with." At the precinct, Deputy Vega smirked during the briefing. Heard Kessler pissed off a Supreme Court justice, but his pants are still brown. No one used Gloria's name, but the story grew legs. 6 months after the traffic stop, Officer Brandon Kessler stood in the precinct parking lot under a brittle autumn sky, watching his new trainee, Officer Danny Ruse, the sergeant's nephew, adjust his duty belt with nervous fingers. The kid was 22, fresh out of the academy, with the overeater posture of someone who still believed the job was about heroics. "First rule," Kessler said, handing him a coffee. "Listen more than you talk." Ruse frowned. "That's not what they taught us in." "Second rule," Kessler interrupted, "the quiet ones? They're usually the ones who know more than you." It wasn't the speech he'd given his last trainee. That one had been all about command presence and controlling the narrative. But that was before the roadside, before the badge in Gloria Hemming's steady hand. Later that shift, Ruse motioned to a black teenager in a hoodie walking near a shuttered storefront. "Should we stop him? Looks suspicious." Kessler hesitated. A year ago, he'd have agreed. Now he heard Gloria's voice. "Would you have believed them?" "Nah," he said, rolling past. "Kid's just walking." Ruse gaped. "Since when do we ignore?" "Third rule," Kessler cut in. "Ask yourself, would I stop a white kid for this? If the answer's no, drive on." The kid would never know how close he'd come to being another statistic. But Kessler did. Gloria found the envelope in her mailbox on a Tuesday. No return address, the handwriting neat but unpracticed. Inside, a single sheet of notebook paper. "Dear Justice Hemmings, you don't know me, but your story found me anyway. My cousin goes to Northside High. She heard Marley Jenkins' essay about a traffic stop that changed everything. She told me, and now I'm telling you. I start law school next fall. When I was 16, a cop pinned me to the hood of my mom's car for matching a description. He laughed when I cried. I wanted to be a teacher before that. Now I want to be the kind of lawyer who makes cops think twice. You showed us silence can be louder than shouting. Thank you for that. Tyler Freeman. Gloria read it twice, then placed it in the drawer where she kept her late husband's watch. That night she dreamed of Marvin for the first time in months. He didn't speak, just smiled and pressed a gavel into her hands. By winter, the story had seeped into the county's bones. At the barber shop, old men nodded when young cops came in. Y'all behave now. Heard about that judge. In the academy, a defensive tactics instructor used it as a case study. Power doesn't always wear a uniform. Marley's essay was reprinted in the Macon Telegraph. Anonymous, but everyone knew. No headlines. No internal investigations. Just a shift so subtle most missed it. Then one icy January morning, Kessler responded to a domestic call. The husband, white, florid, still holding a beer, sneered when he saw Ruse's brown skin. I want the real cop to take my statement. Kessler stepped between them. You'll speak to Officer Ruse with respect, or you'll speak to me in cuffs. Later, Ruse stared at him. You didn't used to be like this. Kessler thought of Gloria's question. Would you have listened? And gripped the wheel tighter. People change. The cherry blossoms were early that year. Gloria sat on her porch, a quilt draped over her knees, watching pink petals drift onto the sidewalk. In her lap lay Tyler Freeman's letter, its edges softened by months of rereading. She traced the words with her thumb. I want to be the kind of lawyer who makes cops think twice. And smiled. Justice had always been a slow, deliberate thing in her mind, not the dramatic courtroom reveals from television, but the quiet accumulation of choices, like water wearing down stone. That night on the roadside hadn't been about humiliation or revenge. It had been about offering the man a mirror and letting him decide whether to look away. A breeze stirred the pages of the open book beside her. Their eyes were watching God. Janie's words echoed in her mind. There are years that ask questions and years that answer. This year, it seemed, had done both. The teenager's brake light was out. Kessler clocked it instantly as the kid's pickup truck rolled through the stop sign. A violation he'd ridden a dozen tickets for last year. He flipped on his lights. The boy's hand shot up before Kessler even reached the window. Fingers splayed against the glass. I'm sorry, sir, I know it's out. My uncle's supposed to fix it. Kessler froze. The kid couldn't have been older than 17, his voice cracking on sir. His dashboard was littered with fast food wrappers and basketball practice schedules. License and registration, Kessler said automatically. But as the boy fumbled in his glove compartment, something in Kessler's chest tightened. He remembered another glove box another night. The boy handed over the documents, his palm damp. Am I in trouble? Kessler studied the license. Darius Thompson, 5'9", 150 Ilbs. No priors. Honor roll sticker on the windshield. He handed it back. Get that light fixed by Friday. Darius blinked. That's it. That's it. Kessler turned to go, then paused. And Darius, keep your hands on the wheel next time. Not everyone's gonna give you a pass. The boy's yes, sir followed him back to his cruiser. Stories have a way of outliving their tellers. At Northside High, Marley Jenkins won a full scholarship to Howard University. Her admissions essay, The Day I Learned Power Wears Pearls. Tyler Freeman aced his one-liter exams at Georgetown. His criminal law professor noted, Mr. Freeman has an exceptional grasp of Fourth Amendment jurisprudence. Officer Ruse requested a transfer to the Community Liaison Unit. His application cited a mentor who taught me to hear the words under the words. As for Gloria, she still drove Marvin's old sedan, still took the back roads home. And Kessler? He kept Gloria's question folded in his vest pocket. Would you have listened? Though he'd never admit it. Some revolutions don't need sirens.